Okay, this is part 2 of the second series in using the masks and what effects they can have on our images. Here's a picture of an apple. It's in color. And above it, I have a layer that's black and white. And I'll bring in the layer palette so you can see it. There's my background layer. And there's a layer above it. If I click on the eye next to the layer 1, you can see that it's a black and white rendition of the background layer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a layer mask. In my layers palette, I'm going to add a layer mask, and because it's all white, it's showing only the black and white going down through. Of course, if it were black, it wouldn't show any of the black and white apple. But because it's white, it shows all of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the best of both worlds by creating a half and half. So I'm going to go into my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to create a selection that cuts the apple directly right in half. Then I'm going to click on my layer mask, and holding down the Alt key and hitting the backspace while having my default color as black, voila. Let's see what we have now. I'll deselect by Control D. Now we see half and half. Now there's another effect we could do. We could go into our gradient tool, and we could create a gradient in this mask. And let's see what happens if we do that. Well, if we look at the layer mask that we just created, we see that most of the black is on the left-hand side. And as we move closer to the center, it gets lighter and lighter in shades of gray. So the layer mask itself is affected by the shades of gray. It's not strictly black and white. The layer mask will obey the laws of gray. So if we come in closer, we can see that red is beginning to shine through here where there is no red over here. And if we look at the beginning of the image where it's all black, right here in this area, we see that it's mostly red. In fact, it is all red for all intents and purposes. So let's try something else then. Why don't we do a gradient on the whole image? Why don't we just do this? Why don't we go from the bottom right to the top without a selection and see what happens? Now you can see where the darkest areas is below the marching ants here. And if I wanted to, I could take a white brush and I could even touch this up a little bit if I wanted to. Any place I paint white in this mask, now let's take a look at the mask. Any place I'm painting white, the red is not going to show through. Conversely, if anywhere I paint black, the red is going to show through because it's not letting the black and white image come through. Okay, so I think that more or less explains to you what a mask can do. And let's see what else we could do here. We can take the brush and we can selectively paint in any of the red we want. And if we use a gray brush, it will partially paint in some of the red. So using a layer mask doesn't necessarily mean it's all black and white. There are shades of gray in between.